Joining us now to talk about the latest developments in Ukraine, Congressman Mike Quigley, thanks you so much for joining us. Before we talk about this military aid package, talk about, you said last week you were in a Black Hawk helicopter surveying the area. What did you see?
Look, I led a group from the Intelligence Committee to the three of the countries bordering Ukraine, Slovakia, Romania, and Poland. We met with our counterparts in government, military, and the intelligence communities, and some of the MPs, members of parliament from Ukraine, came and visited us as well. I saw an extraordinary process, logistical difficulties that there have been overcome of bringing a tremendous amount of humanitarian and military aid to the scene.
Talking about military aid, as we mentioned, $800 million from U.S. going to Ukraine. But President Volodymyr Zelensky says at least $7 billion a week should be coming that way. Sounds like they're pretty hard up right now. What can help them, if anything?
Look, I think it's a combined effort, multinational effort. His numbers are very high, but as he said, if you dust off 1 to 2% of the weaponry that's in NATO, you can go a long way. I think the weaponry we're sending them now is particularly important. It's armor, it's drones, it's howitzers, it's the kind of weapons they're dealing with in more open warfare in the eastern part of the country. So it's particularly important now. But next week, I suspect what's going to happen toward President Zelensky's point is Speaker Pelosi has said, we are going to consider additional assistance. President Biden said today that we have drawn near the bottom of what he can draw down on. So what I'm hoping for is a larger package that we can posture to Eastern Europe so it can move forward on a continuing basis.
Congressman, before this package, the U.S. had given $2.6 million since the war started February 24th. Can we afford to keep sending more, or can we not afford to do it?
Look, I think we have to ask ourselves.
We can afford not to, I should say.
Well, look, yeah, sure. We have to ask ourselves who we are as a country. Are we willing to watch a sovereign democratic country get wiped off the face of the earth? Had we not given a total of $4 billion since the beginning of the Biden administration and the additional aid from our NATO allies, certainly this war would have been over. The extraordinary efforts of the Ukrainian military, their heroism is extraordinary, but they need a lot more assistance to deal with a very large Russian force.
What about Russia's ballistic missile test earlier this week? Is that a threat to us and other countries, other allies of ours?
Look, President Putin's not afraid of saber rattling. Just before the invasion, he did a similar missile test to the east, and I suspect the kinds of threats that you've heard, this kind of saber rattling will continue as time goes on. He is counting on NATO being afraid of what he might do, and he's using that intimidation to try to stymie our efforts to help Ukraine.
Does it surprise you the strength that the Ukrainians have, how they've been able to push back on Russia as they have?
You know, it shouldn't have. I was in Ukraine right after the Maidan. I saw the extraordinary spirit there. I've seen it in our community, Ukrainian village right here in Chicago. So this is extraordinary efforts. These are very brave people fighting for their existence, fighting for their homeland. And I think they met perhaps an arrogant, overconfident, ill-prepared Russian army. I think the real danger is in the east. There are shorter supply lines for the Russians. The Russians are still a dramatically significant force, and that fighting in the east is going to be very difficult.
What about refugees out of Ukraine? Many of them, I know, are going to Mexico. How is the U.S. going to help them there?
Sure. We're talking about 5 million now. Almost 20% of their population's been displaced. About half of those kids. So it's a horrible situation. The president announced a new program to expedite the movement in accepting 100,000 Ukrainians. Two things. We need to do that as quickly as possible. Poland has accepted, about the size of Warsaw in terms of population. We need to do our share. It also shines a light on the fact that there are refugees from war-torn countries in Africa, in Yemen, and other places in the world. We should be just as concerned about them. It's the kind of country we are.
Congressman Mike Quigley, thank you so much for always being available to us. We appreciate it. Be safe, be well.
Thank you.